a tough one to stomach at the alley as Florida Atlantic falls to UAB. What an up and down, but I think revealing in a good way week for Florida Atlantic basketball. We welcome you in to the Inside Florida Atlantic podcast. This is the Florida Atlantic Voice presented by Robes Law Group. Robes Law Group, personal injury lawyers, ROBES, robeslawgroup.com. I'm the voice of FAU, Ken LaVicka, as we sit in the alley upstairs, second level, after FAU's 81-76 loss to UAB on Sunday. And before we really dig in, I'd like to offer an apology to everybody. There was not a podcast this week up until Sunday because of technical issues that I could not overcome when we were on the trip to Charlotte midweek. My laptop was working just fine. Got on the plane on Tuesday, made the connection in Charlotte, and then there was, what am I talking about? We didn't even fly. See, that's how fried my brain is. Everything worked fine at East Carolina. Then we busted Charlotte. Everything was fine. And then it wasn't. And in fact, my laptop hasn't turned on. I've had a black screen and very little sound coming from my laptop since practice on Monday in Charlotte. So that is, I'm no computer expert, but that's not good. So I've been unable to record anything, edit anything, and so I apologize. I was not avoiding recording a podcast for any reason. This isn't a Hawk to a Girl situation where she stopped recording her podcast for 3 weeks after a potential illegal rug-pulling crypto scam online. I didn't do anything like that. I'm not in trouble with authorities. It's just simply I away from South Florida, had no way to actually record or edit a podcast. So now that we're back in South Florida, here I am. So again, sorry for that. My apologies. Florida Atlantic loses to UAB, and the Owls are now 9-8 on the season and 2-2 in the league. And in its simplest form, I think what we saw on Sunday was a team in UAB that brought back 8 players from last year, including Giancarlo Rosado, who is a cyborg, the defensive player of the year last year in the American, preseason player of the year in the American this year, a guy who, when you're desperate, can just sort of bully his way to the rim, make something happen. He's going to get the benefit of the whistle. What you saw is 8 returners from the conference tournament champion last year with Lindeborg, up against a team that is completely new and is still seeking some continuity, that still hasn't figured out quite yet roles in critical situations. I honestly think it comes down to that. A team that knows one another, they've played with one another, with the preseason player of the year, and an FAU team that has an awful lot of talent and is not quite there yet when it comes to continuity. I know that that's probably making it way simpler than it actually is, but that's sort of the way that I consume it, and I think that really helps explain the game ending with a UAB 8-1 run in the final 2:30 after Florida Atlantic took a 75-73 lead. You saw UAB have the ability to bully its way to the free throw line. You saw UAB able to get out on the break a couple of times, finish off possessions. And that was the game, that 8-1 close for UAB. Florida Atlantic, meanwhile, in the final 2:30 with that 2-point lead, had the lead after Giancarlo Rosado dribbled the ball off his foot out of bounds. But FAU comes down, and you have a take from Leland Walker from the left side where he dribbles himself into some trouble and doesn't get a good shot up. And then on the next possession, it is Leland trying to reverse layup and came up short. Good take, but trying to do a little 1v1 hero ball. And then Tre Carroll, I think, who got a little bit in between from a decision-making standpoint in the lane, Didn't know if against Lindenborg he wanted to go up with one of those patented short-range left-handed shots. He was falling away a little bit, so he saw, credit to him, basketball IQ, Baba Miller hanging out near the rim, tried to lob it up to him. Baba saw what was happening, but did not have enough on his leap to flick the ball into the basket, and that was some really quick adjustment Baba had to make on that ball. So FAU just continually came up empty, and then three-point barrage came up empty. Ken Evans missed a couple. Leland Walker missed a three as well. And so that was it. It hurts to lose games like that because you dig in, you come back from down 12, you suddenly find a way after not being able to get a stop for the first 7 minutes of the second half. You go behind 60-48. Tre Carroll comes back into the game. Devin Vanterpool comes into the game, and suddenly you sort of figure it out. FAU's best stretch of defense, in my opinion, best stretch of defense, most physical, aggressive defense, despite being undersized on the floor, came from about the 12:30 mark of the second half all the way through about the 5-minute mark of the second half. I mean, it was just tenacious. It was frustrating Lindenborg. FAU was competitive at the perimeter, quick hands in passing lanes, anticipating well. So I know that John Jacobs hates moral victories, and I do as well. But if you're just looking at it from a where are the tangible improvements coming from standpoint, I think FAU made some major progress against a team with a huge size advantage tonight in UAB. Florida Atlantic out-rebounding UAB +7. 6 more offensive rebounds, I believe is the number. Let me check. 5 more offensive rebounds for FAU, 21-16, +6 on the boards, 46-40. Why is this significant? Well, FAU was on the wrong side of 27-6 in second chance points at East Carolina, and were -17 on the boards in Greenville. Found a way to win that game miraculously, 78-76. But FAU then won the rebounding battle at Charlotte, and then FAU out-rebounds a UAB team who is tied for the second best offensive rebounding side in the entire American with East Carolina, who blew FAU out on the offensive glass just 7 days prior to this one, and FAU comes back and puts in a +5 effort on the offensive rebounding side of things. So, again, I know that it's going to be, oh, here's Ken making excuses for a frustrating loss, but look at it. Look at it. FAU got it. I've never seen a more lopsided rebounding deficit that FAU put up and still win a game in my nearly 20 years as the voice of this program. There aren't many teams, if any, that overcome that. And somehow FAU did. And then you come back a couple of days later, you rebound much better, and then an overwhelming rebounding effort against one of the best of the conference. Not to mention, FAU holds UAB to 14 fast break points when they're up around 20. That's second in the nation coming into this game. So I just think that it's close. It's so close. And I still maintain that on a neutral floor, it's going to be a really tough team to beat once everybody goes to Fort Worth. There's a lot of basketball to play until then, and there are a lot of tough tests. One of them's coming up Wednesday against Tulane. But FAU couldn't find a good possession, a good look. John Jacobs talked about it in his postgame. Shot selection in the final 2.5 minutes. That doomed FAU. Florida Atlantic getting down 12 in the first half didn't help. Florida Atlantic getting down 12 in the second half didn't help. There were some opportunities on fast breaks where Ken Evans with a steal, and then he just loses the ball going up, trying to press the action, press the envelope on a 1-on-3. Maybe you back it out or look for some reinforcements in that spot. Again, leave that to Coach Jacobs and the staff. This is just me in real time sort of reacting and spitballing here after this one, things that we see on the broadcast, Damon Arnett and myself. So, yeah, you could always look to an Monday morning quarterback specific possessions, but Florida Atlantic had a chance to win. And again, in the final 2.5 minutes, UAB made the right decisions on offense, and Florida Atlantic just didn't. And again, I think a lot of that is A team with 8 returners from a year ago, including the player that was dominant last season, had 21 rebounds in an upset win over FAU in Birmingham, Yaxel Lindenborg. He's one of the 8 returners, and so you have a guy that you can lean on when you need to find a way to slow down the descent, if you will. And FAU has still an entirely new roster that has struggled with consistency and continuity, and FAU just doesn't have what UAB has, and that's the inherent knowledge of what to do late in these games, because who on the roster is going to do what? What's the personnel grouping? All these things are still a work in progress. Oh, but Ken, it's 17 games into the season. I said this on the broadcast, and I maintain it. This is starting to feel like the season before the Final Four year, where FAU had such a hard time winning one possession games, couldn't close things out, really struggled in that area. And then it helped them the very next season. It was a complete rollover. So I'm not saying that FAU is going to be a Final Four caliber team, but what I'm saying is that if you can bring some of these same players back, a good portion of your core next season, it's going to help. These lessons do get ingrained. The experience does matter. FAU doesn't have it. UAB does, and that was the difference at the Ellie. Tre Carroll continues to be just awesome, right? 20 points, 7 rebounds, and he was battling his backside off against Lindenborg. There was no reason that Tre should have been able to be in Lindenborg's hair as much as he was, and he came in, all 6, 7 of them, and fought and clawed and scratched and drew offensive fouls and forced turnovers from Lindenborg. It was awesome. And the thing about Tre is that he's so even. He doesn't get bothered by anything. So against Charlotte, it was pretty clear. Tre was a little bit tight. I thought trying to maybe do a little bit too much against Giancarlo Rosado. First time they had really seen each other, talked to one another since G left for Charlotte, transferred there. And I mean, those two are tight. Those two practice against each other every day. They stretch together pregame. That's a great relationship. And Tre's, I mean, he's been the dude on this team for the last month and a half or so. And he's come a long way. And so he wants to show G, like, hey, I'm the guy. I can work you. And Tre was quiet in the first half. And instead of hanging his head and getting in his head, Tre was phenomenal in the second half. 15 points, 9 rebounds in the game. Really took control through stretches, dominated underneath, made great plays. Another case tonight against UAB of Tre just settling into the game after a rough first half and getting beat up by Lindenborg a little bit, but nothing phases the guy. And he just keeps playing. And that's the sign of a leader. That's the sign of a winner. And I think this is an FAU team that's still looking for the right combination of on-floor leadership. I think that's a constant quest. I'm sure John Jacobs is still trying to figure out who he most can lean on with that on-court leadership angle. It doesn't come easy. It doesn't happen overnight, and not every team has it. I think you see some flashes here and there from different players, whether it's Nico Moretti, whether it's Leland Walker, whether it's Baba. But I think Tre, more often than not, is the one trying to bring it. Whether or not it's effective, I don't know, but I do know that he's getting buckets. I know that defense has always been his shortcoming, and he has worked his backside off to be serviceable enough to change games. And he gave one of the most dynamic players in the league a difficult night. Like, I know Lindenborg put up a big stat line, 22 points, 10 rebounds, but it could have been that much more robust if it wasn't for Tre Carroll coming in and delivering some punches to the midsection and allowing FAU the chance to get out and find itself, find its rhythm, impose its will, and erase a 12-point second-half deficit and have the lead with 2.5 minutes left to go. I thought that it was also positive. Matas Boykiatitis, 11:46, 7 points. made his presence felt in the second half. Really, in the first half, started to stem the tide a little bit as well when the bigs Coleman and Lindenborg were having their way underneath, at least temporarily. And then Devin Vanterpool with maybe the most effective 340 you're going to find. He came in concurrently with Tre Carroll at that 13-minute mark when FAU went down 12, 60-48, and he promptly gave McGee problems, UAB's McGee problems. He made Vasquez's life really difficult. Tony had a tough time against Devin Vanterpool. So John Jacobs told us in the post-game show on the radio network, Vanterpool is probably going to see some minutes, and he earns that. I mean, that guy being ready, and it was only 3 minutes and 40 seconds, but it was an effective 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Playing time's not guaranteed for Devin Vanterpool. It's not. He doesn't go into a game knowing if he's going to play or not. And he didn't know if he was going to play tonight. And sure enough, he did. And he helped kind of put the brakes on UAB and allow FAU back into the game. And all it took was under 4 minutes for him to help the cause. That deserves more time. And John Jacobs certainly acknowledged it. And so well done by Devin Vanterpool.
The OWL Collective is helping Florida Atlantic students navigate name, image, and likeness, often referred to as NIL. Businesses, nonprofits, and organizations reach out to find out how you can support through NIL at Florida Atlantic University. Your contributions can have a direct impact to helping these student athletes. Please visit theowlcollective.com or on socials at The Owl Collective. The Owl Collective is powered by Robes Injury Law.
One more thing I'll say in relation to the UAB game. 2-2 in the league. You've lost both your home conference games. It stinks. It does. But if there's anything we've seen from the American here in this 2024-2025 season, this league is wide open. Like Memphis right now is the lone undefeated. They almost lost at home, should have lost at home to East Carolina. If it wasn't for P.J. Haggerty getting bailed out with a really ticky-tack foul going to the line in a tie game with under a minute left to go on Saturday, and Memphis able to close it out from the free throw line, they have an extremely unexpected upset loss tagged to them in those AAC standings. Like North Texas, they're a defensive juggernaut. They look nasty. They have an edge to them. Do they have enough offense? Tulane's been a surprise. They're 3-1 now in conference. FAU goes there next, a chance to chip away, going to New Orleans and win for a second straight year. Wichita State had a good non-conference, but they've been a little bit up and down once conference plays began. South Florida has looked pretty good in conference, but then they lose at Tulane. So this could go anyway. Temple off to a good 3-1 start, but they just had to indefinitely suspend a key player. So you don't know what Temple's going to be. There seems to be some lack of cohesion in that locker room, if you will. And I think that FAU definitely is in the top half of this conference. Where in the top half, I don't know. Dangerous as the season goes on, and you key in on neutral site conference tournament for sure. There's no reason FAU can't be what UAB was last year. Find itself at about the midway point of the conference season, which UAB did, and that was about when FAU went in there and lost in overtime a season ago, and then UAB found its legs. It was not a good first half of the conference season for UAB. Very inconsistent. Eric Gaines struggled. Yaxel wasn't Yaxel yet. And then everything kind of came together, and they played an aggressive style, and they got after it. And they really sort of found their identity, and that was get to the free throw line. That was get teams on their heels. That was play a million miles an hour and then play stout defense when you're not offensively running things at the speed of the Indy 500. There's no reason why FAU can't be this. No reason why FAU can't be this, okay? There's no reason. I'm confident that it could happen. Maybe it doesn't. Don't hold me to it, but all I'm saying is that it's not time to start deleting tickets off your phone, okay? So Wednesday at Tulane is going to be a massive test. It's going to be a significant test. Tulane was supposed to have a much better team last year than they did. Florida Atlantic needed a miracle. Elijah Martin free throws, 3 of them after getting fouled with 0.4 of a second left to win that game. Hopefully it doesn't come to that this time, but FAU is certainly in for a test against Tulane. Tulane lost to Southeastern Louisiana. It looked like they were in the doldrums. They were not very good in the non-conference, but now Tulane's starting to pick it up, and they're very unpredictable. They play a weird style of offense. UAB switching a lot from a 2-3 zone to a 1-3-1. Tulane does this weird man zone hybrid where it's kind of sloppy, but it's effective enough because it's extremely unconventional. You haven't seen it much. You're having to react to it. So FAU has its work cut out for it to handle that and to completely flush this loss to UAB. I wanted to address in this edition of the Florida Atlantic Voice what it was like seeing Giancarlo Rosado again. And we're going to see him in a couple of weeks here in Boca for a Monday night game, Big Monday on ESPN, a 9 p.m. tip. It was awesome to see G. It really was. And I've had so many of you reach out to me and ask how Giancarlo is. And he's great. The team, Charlotte's really struggling. And I don't know how that season's going to end up. It's not looking too promising there for the 49ers, but G's fine. He's taking it in stride. And I've been asked a couple of times too, especially with the struggles of Charlotte. Oh, do you think Giancarlo regrets not staying at FAU? I don't know. I haven't asked him that. I don't know if at any point I'm even going to bother because I respect G. I love G like a family member. And I'm proud of him that he made an adult decision. He did something for him. And he decided to apply his own path. And who am I to question him on that? I almost think that it's inappropriate for me to question that as someone who cares for him. He made an adult decision. He's a grown man. He grew up at FAU, and he's allowed to leave the nest. A lot of us have done it, so why not him? So I'm proud of him. He's definitely, they put weight on him. He's right around 260 because they're having him play a traditional 5 spot, where he's still coming out and he's working the high post and trying to use that footwork and bully his way underneath. But again, he's playing the 5, and he's been coming off the bench as of late. But he's taken it in stride. Things were cordial to downright friendly with him and the coaching staff and the FAU roster. Don't forget, he was here for 3 weeks with Coach Jacobs and company. He knows a decent amount of the guys already who are on the roster. Certainly knows Tre. Certainly knows Jack Johnson. Certainly knows Devin Vanterpool. Certainly knows Jaquel. So it was awesome to see him. I mean, he went down guy by guy, gave him hugs, had a long embrace with Tre Carroll multiple times before the game, after the game, came over to me, and gave me a big hug. And it was awesome to see him. Again, if you have asked yourself or continue to ask yourself, why didn't G stay at FAU? I would just let it go. There's no point in relitigating that. He made a big man, grown man, adult decision, and he should be respected for it. And just to tell you what type of guy G is, I had left a message on Instagram about how I was proud of him, and he replied back, "Love you. Tell your kids I said hi." Like, how good is that? I mean, G's still asking about my kids, and my girls ask about him as well. How G is, how the giant Vlad is. They love Nelly. Where's one? So they all ask about it. All these guys are family, and I'm really, really proud of them. Elijah, he was the shooter in my house with my 2 daughters. So, but I think it's just worth bringing that up since we saw one of the former staples of the FAU Final Four run for the first time in person. Just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page with that. And it was amazing to see him. Amazing to see him, and I can't wait for him to get his proper appreciation when he comes to Boca in a couple of weeks. You don't need to cheer him the whole game. I think he would be a little weirded out if he didn't receive maybe some boos late in the game. He's not wearing a uniform with FAU across its chest anymore, but he definitely is an owl for life. And I think that when he does come, there should at least be a good ovation for him when he walks in. I wanted to. I don't know what's happening here because it's John Jacobs and I had a conversation about it. I've had a couple of fans reach out to me about it. I almost feel like I should reach out to the NCAA. By the way, this is the Florida Atlantic Voice presented by Robes Law Group, ROBES, robeslawgroup.com. Personal injury lawyers there for you in the community. Robes Law Group, robeslawgroup.com. I'm Ken LaVicka. There have been 2 of the last 3 games, at East Carolina and home against UAB, 2 fouls that in the past 18 years where I've called college basketball have always been on the floor. They've always been on the floor. Yet we've had NBA continuation calls twice in 3 games. I have not seen this before. It's almost stunning to me, jarring. I don't know how to describe it quite on the air because there's NBA continuation where you can get bumped 30 feet from the rim and then take 2 steps and heave up a shot from the right elbow. And they're going to give you 2 shots on that, right? In college, when a foul's on the floor, it's on the floor. There's no 2-step, then put the ball up. If you're fouled on the floor, you're pushed, you're tripped, it's foul. Against East Carolina late in that game, ECU got an and one on a call that came just inside the 3-point line against Nico Moretti, and they counted after 2 steps the shot going through from the low right block and an and one. I was apoplectic, shell-shocked, if you will. Didn't see that coming, but maybe it's a one-off. FAU eventually won, fine. I'm willing to just sleep on it, move on. But then tonight, in the second half, there's with no team yet in the bonus, and FAU is trying to muscle itself back into this game, drag itself back into contention in this game. A foul is called right of the lane again. And this one, was it on, I can't remember if it was on Moretti or on Tre Carroll. I apologize for that. But it was clear on the floor, and then 2 steps were taken, and then a shot was put up. I mean, and this was 2 long strides, and the official said 2-shot foul. That one was even more egregious than the East Carolina one. And I said on the broadcast, I don't remember the NCAA in the offseason changing the continuation rule, whether it's on the floor or a 2-shot foul. They call it a point of emphasis every season when they tell officials to be a little more diligent when it comes to making rulings in specific areas, whether it's a charge call. That was a couple of years ago. The embellishment, the flopping. There have been a number of those over the years, but I must have missed the memo on the point of emphasis on the continuation. I didn't know that we were going to a random Tuesday night with the Nuggets and the Grizzlies from FedEx Forum. I didn't know that we had random Portland Phoenix and ones or continuation being counted in college basketball in the 2024-2025 season. I will formally apologize to the FAU fans that I was not made aware, therefore I could not convey it to you. This is news to me. I may very well reach out to the NCAA and ask them if there has been a memo sent to officials about maybe loosening the continuation rules here in college basketball, but this is insane. I've never seen anything like it. The 2 most unbelievable, generous continuations I've ever seen in 18 years of calling Division I college basketball have come in the last 3 games. I don't know. Maybe you have an answer for me. I have no idea. You can tweet at me at KLV Says. I have no idea other than that. I'm at a loss in that spot. one other thing I wanted to bring up. I said we made the drive from Greenville, North Carolina to Charlotte, which is about 3.5 hours, 4 hours maybe, on Sunday after FAU's win over the Pirates, and then spent 3 days in Charlotte before playing the 49ers on Wednesday night. Stopped at a rural North Carolina Bojangles on the way. I, being a Chicago native, not overly familiar with Bojangles. Have I had it before? Yeah, but it's been after football losses where I'm not in the mood. On the road, you get on the bus to get to the plane to drive home. You know you're going to walk in the door at like 3 a.m. You have Bojangles. It at least fills your stomach. But for me, at least, I'm very invested, that's the right word, in FAU football and basketball outcomes, FAU athletics as a whole. So it's more just a stomach filler sustenance than it is, that's delicious. That's the only time I've really had Bojangles. I've never actually walked into a Bojangles location until Sunday night. And I got to say, and because the Florida Atlantic Voice is not beholden to a food sponsor yet, at KLV says, reach out if you're a food sponsor and you'd like me to help push product. But Bojangles, that is an elite chicken sandwich there at Bojangles. I'm not going to trash other chicken sandwiches you can get in the fast food realm when I talk about Bojangles here. And this will be the last time I bring up Bojangles until they start paying me to talk about them. But I got to say that number 10, the Big Joe sandwich, I think that's what it was called. I think we're on to something. Perfect. I'm not a big fried chicken guy. I almost got a grilled chicken sandwich, but I said, if I'm going to Bojangles, I'm not going to get a grilled chicken. I'm not going to be that guy. How lame is that? So I got myself the fried chicken sandwich, and it was a good decision. Not a big mayonnaise guy. Perfect amount of mayonnaise. I like the pickle. I'm into that. Very crispy, very warm, juicy on the interior of it. Bojangles was that was a treat. First time I've ever eaten it not sad. It's a pretty good meal if you're in the mood for that sort of thing. So again, I'm not going to trash talk other chicken sandwich locations, and there's plenty of them. But Bojangles, I'm putting that right near the top of my list when it comes to a chicken sandwich. Because again, it keeps its integrity as well. It doesn't get too soggy. It's nice and thick and good. Not too much of the fried part of it. So it's a good chicken sandwich. So good idea by John Jacobs and the coaching staff to hit that rural Bojangles. It was really, really cold. I mean, oh boy, was it cold. And speaking of overcoming adversity, this Florida Atlantic basketball team went on the road at Charlotte and stayed in a hotel across from campus that this team has stayed at this establishment many times over the years. But they were doing some elevator repair work for about 3 straight days, where the repair work started at 8:30 in the morning and pretty much went straight through to 6 p.m. And it appeared as if it was on the 10th floor elevator, and this FAU team was staying on the 9th floor. And it was distracting. It was loud. It was making it pretty tough to nap. But these guys didn't complain. They just went about their business. This is a professional group. They're gonna find their way. So credit to this team for overcoming the elevator repair work. I followed their lead. I'm 40. I was more than ready to complain about it, say something about it, but I took their lead. These youngsters, these 17, 18 through 24-year-olds, they were better about it than I was, because I'm old and crabby. So good job by those guys, and then they come back and get the win. No one said a peep about it in complaint, and I think that stuff matters. I kind of tell that story just because it's a little bit of an insight, but also I do think that it matters. This group does not get phased collectively by much, and that's why I think that they're going to come back from this UAB loss and go to Tulane and present a really tough front to the Green Wave. That'll do it for the Florida Atlantic Voice, presented by Robes Law Group. Personal injury lawyers, ROBES, robeslawgroup.com, robeslawgroup.com. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to tell your friends. Don't forget to make sure that that you're getting the word out about the Florida Atlantic Voice, the Inside Florida Atlantic podcast. I'm on my way to being technically capable again, so things will be back to their regular 2 a week and maybe some special ones down the road as well. But Happy New Year, if you haven't heard it from me yet. And FAU plays Tulane on Wednesday night. I'll talk to you from New Orleans when that time comes. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you're consuming this on YouTube, I'm Ken LaVicka. This has been the Florida Atlantic Voice presented by Robes Law Group. Bye-bye.